Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Instant Replay. I'm your host, Dave Garner. Thank you guys for joining us on this Monday, November the 12th, 2018. It is Veterans Day around the country. Observe Veterans Day, and that's why I'm wearing my Salute to Service sweatshirt. Not promoting the NFL, but it was the only thing that I had, or at least that was suitable for the weather today, that represented our military. And so Luther and I were talking about it before we came on this morning. Team FYN Sports wants to thank all of our veterans and for all of their sacrifices, for your service to our country, and remembering those who have fallen to protect us here in this great nation. And we thank you this morning. I want to thank Rick for pinch hitting for BKP this morning. If you're watching the show, of course, on Monday, you're watching live. If you're watching another day of the week, you're watching our encore replay. But nonetheless, the show is still valid. It's still relevant, even if you're watching this show on Tuesday or Thursday, because we're going to be talking over the next hour about high school football, the matchups that are coming up this week. So regardless of whether you're catching us on Monday or another day, we hope that you enjoy the next hour. We've got Josh behind the glass with us this morning. He's a little somber because Georgia Southern lost to Troy over the weekend, and I'm an Eagle too, so I was kind of hurt by that one. But he's still with us, alive and well. And Luther Kinsey, as always, is behind the glass, too. And we've got a lot to talk about. Gentlemen, how are you doing on this rainy Monday morning?
Well, it is rainy. It's cold. Nobody can complain about, the hot temperatures. And well, it's too hot. It's too hot. It's too hot. Now we got to figure out how to get our swim fins and our wetsuits.
Right.
And it's just a dreary day. It's supposed to be, if you're watching this, in somewhere other than Georgia, here in our local area, we're swamped into this stuff for the next 3 to 4 days, is what they're saying. Highs in the upper 40s to low 50s, and just rain, and rain. So it's going to be a hard to get motivated week, but we're going to get motivated. We got a lot of stuff to cover today, and a lot of basketball season getting ready to fire up this week.
Absolutely.
We're going to be slammed. We're going to be ready and be all over it, as we say.
That sounds good, yeah. Busy week, no doubt. And obviously, and you guys have done a great job in covering the playoffs, which we're going to talk a little bit more about today. Some other things to talk about as well, so we'll do our best to cram it all in here in the next, under an hour with the time that we have here. And we appreciate you guys being with us. As always, our phone number is 706-889-9700, and our email, teamfynsports@fetchernews.com. Again, if you have any information you'd like to share with us involving local sports, any information you'd like to pass along about your son, your daughter, your granddaughter, grandson, a team, maybe a youth team, you name it. Of course, I know last week I was not here, but Luther and BKP did a great job of keeping the seat warm and keeping the show rolling. I know we had a little bit of a power outage, and there's a lot of, you guys had to fight through some adversity last week on the show, so hopefully, looking around, everything will stay in one piece this week. So, that's what we're hoping for anyway, right? I guess that's,
Yeah, well, it was, we were in our last segment, probably 12 minutes to go, leading into some cross country, and the results there, and just, we had 3 or 4 flickers, and, I want to apologize to the fans watching that we did shut down a little early on that, because, and most of our audience is probably unfamiliar with our system here of electronics and all that, and it just takes a good, probably 20 minutes to really boot everything back up and get everything going. So I want to apologize. Didn't have the opportunity last week to finish some stuff, but I brought it into this week's show so we can at least highlight those.
Yep.
And like I said, just want to apologize that, it was beyond our control. Mother Nature chose to, give us a flicker there, and
that's how it works. To BKP, you got to pay that power bill on time, right? I guess that's he's not just going to let you guys know. We do have the Team FYN Sports Game of the Week to talk about BKP, but he is out today. Obviously, Rick was in this morning for the Good Morning from the Office segment, doing a great job talking about Veterans Day. Had some Marines with him as well. So again, it was a great show this morning. But yeah, BKP is not in the office this morning, so he will also not be on our program today as well. But we'll do our best to impersonate him, and maybe Luther, work on that impersonation, because segment 2, man, we may be tossing it over to you there. So should be a lot of fun. Should be, yeah. Oh gosh, Yeah, let's not even go there. MLS, Atlanta United with a big win on Sunday. Of course, that was leg 2 and of their matchup against NYCFC, and of course they won both matchups, of course, in New York at Yankee Stadium. Speaking of the Yankees, and of course yesterday, so we won 4-1 on aggregate. That means the Atlanta United, they are in the Eastern Conference Finals against who other than the team that's had their number this year, the New York Red Bulls. So again, the road leading through New York for Atlanta United. They knock off one New York team. Now they've got to beat the other in order to get into the MLS standings, a team that they lost to twice this year. We'll talk more about that. They do have a little bit of time with the international break, so it's going to be a week or two from now, I guess, before they actually play that matchup. So I guess 2 weeks. So hopefully they'll get good and healed. Tech and Georgia, big winners over the weekend. We talked a little bit about college football. We'll do so later in the show. And we do want to remind folks to follow us on Friday nights. Yes, we are still playing Friday night football. We're almost into basketball, and we're going to talk about that too coming up a little bit later in our third quarter segment of the program. But again, follow us on Twitter, Team FYN Sports on Twitter, and also Facebook and Instagram as well, because we are your home for local sports in North Georgia. Let's take a look at high school football scores from Friday night. Again, round 1 of the GHSA state playoffs in the books, and it was Bremen defeating Union 40-10. The Panthers 9-0 at one point. They fell, of course, to Rabun County in the final game of the regular season. That was essentially the region championship. So that, of course, bumped Union a little bit further down. They had to take on Bremen on Friday night, and Bremen, a very good football team over in the West Georgia area there, right outside of Carrollton and that part of the country, coming over and defeating Union. So the Panthers season, unfortunately, comes to an end, but what a year it was for Brian Allison and his crew. 9-1 regular season, first round of the state playoffs. Congratulations to Union on a great year, and we look forward to hearing more from those guys down the road. Now, we will have Lutheran with us a little bit later in the show. We'll kind of circle back around and talk a little bit more about all these teams. Dawson County, yes, folks, they're headed to round 2 as expected as they defeat Haralson County 44-22, doubling up the opponents from West Georgia on Friday night. Harrison also over there along the Alabama state line, making the trip over to Dawsonville, and it was Sid Maxwell's Dawson County Tigers who, of course, win 44-22. We'll talk about their round 2 matchup against Monroe area later in the show. Calhoun all over Fannin on Friday. The Rebels, really, for all intents and purposes, played pretty well in that football game, 55-17. I know the score didn't reflect it, but the Rebels able to put up some points in that ball game. Calhoun obviously has been the number 1 team in 3A all year long. Certainly lived up to the hype. The Rebels having to go on the road there, but Fannin season comes to an end. But what a great first year for Coach Chad Cheatham and the Fannin County Rebels, who end their season in the playoffs. It's been several years, of course, for the Rebels being in that moment. So congratulations to Fannin on the season they had, and the road is only getting brighter and better and wider for the Fannin County Rebels as they continue on with the program there. GAC all over North Murray on Friday night. Again, the Mountaineers, though, with a great year. Congratulations to all of our friends in Murray County, particularly at North Murray, for making it that far. GAC, as we know, is almost like a small college team, so North Murray also, much like Fannin on Friday night, at times were able to give GAC fits, putting up 17 points on the board there. But again, we look forward to seeing much more out of this young North Murray program down the road. And of course, BKP and the Team FYN Sports crew is in Jasper on Friday night is the Pickens Dragons. Not only, of course, capping a 10-0 season, but winning their first ever playoff game on Friday night in the school's history, 42-0 as they blank the Warriors of White County. Congratulations to White County. They're also, of course, in our area. The Warriors making it to the postseason. I know things did not go their way on Friday night, but White County looking forward to seeing those guys in the playoffs moving forward. But this night, no doubt, it belonged to the Dragons. Pickens now 11-0 on the season, and they will host Troup County on Friday night. Troup County will obviously pose probably the strongest threat to the Dragons this year. Of course, they defeated Ridgeland big early in the season, so we all know how good Troup County is, but they will have to make the trip up from the LaGrange area to Jasper on Friday, and the Dragons will hopefully be ready. So basically, this is what it boils down to. We're going to talk more again about it later in the show, so stay with us right here. We're just in the first quarter segment, but it will be the Dragons taking on on Troup County. The Tigers out of LaGrange come in as the 2 seed, and Dawson County will travel and play Monroe area. Again, the Canes, the number 1 seed out of their bracket. So we've got 2 basically in our coverage area right here with Fetcher News. We've got 2 teams going at it, Pickens and Dawson County, and we're going to be following those guys. We will have updates for you, highlights next Monday right here on this program, but we're going to talk more about these games in our 4th quarter segment of the program. We're going to bring Luther out and break down these 2 games. So we're going to go ahead and hurry up here so that we can go ahead and get to that segment. Meanwhile, the Murphy Bulldogs, not to be forgotten, they just haven't started yet, but across state lines in North Carolina, they are obviously playoff bound with the season they've had. The first round won't start, though, till November the 23rd. They start a little bit later in Carolina. The team has not been determined. The opponent has not been determined yet for the Murphy Bulldogs. So obviously we're going to be talking about football possibly for a while with Murphy as we mix in basketball and wrestling coverage as well, which is cranking up, and that is a look at what happened the other night. Man, we've got a great show still ahead. Stay with us right here. When we return, we're going to talk about that Dragon win over White County. We've got player and coach reaction from Friday night, all that and much more still straight ahead on this week's edition of the Instant Replay. Stay with us.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and LJ, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN 10 for your special deal today at Circuit World. It is Salute to Service Monday right here on the Instant Replay and with all of our folks here at Fetcher News and FYNTV.com. Again, we are Team FYN Sports. Our very own Luther Kinsey behind the glass doing some numbers right here, shaking it up. We're going to bring him in just a moment. But a big win on Friday night for the Pickens Dragons. Now, this is segment 2 or quarter number 2 as we like to call it right here of our 4-quarter program. And normally right now, over the last several weeks, BKP would be sitting in here with us breaking down the Team FYN Sports Game of the Week. Obviously, Brian's not with us this morning, but we will do our best to put on our BKP hat. And I don't have the blonde wig, you know, like I don't have the BKP hair to go along with it. But again, we should have brought in like a Donald Trump wig or something. That might have been pretty close. But regardless, we will do our best to impersonate BKP this morning. But obviously a big win for the Dragons on Friday night, 42-0, if you haven't already heard, over White County, as the Dragons not only, of course, capture their first undefeated season, but now extend the streak, extend the records into the playoffs as they captured their first ever playoff win on Friday night. The Dragons historically have had a lot of 8-2 seasons. They've hosted first-round games, but that very first playoff win has been so elusive until Friday night, and the Dragons left no doubt. There was a lot of talk coming into this game because of playing White County earlier in the year, and of course that being a 42-35 game that, you know, White County maybe a little improved, you know, playing a team a second time. Sometimes it's hard to beat a team again, but the Dragons also have improved, I think, from that point. And that's the thing that a lot of folks weren't talking about, is the Dragon progression throughout the season, how much better they've been. In that first matchup, a little bit different because obviously the Dragons, it was a 2-3 score game most of the night. White County putting up a score or two late in that ball game earlier in the season, you know, brought it within 7, made it look a little bit closer than you felt like the game really was. But on Friday night, again, the Dragons leaving no doubt as they blanked White County, really making a statement that they came to play in all 3 phases of the game. We saw video, of course. BKP was there on Friday night. A lot of things going the Dragons' way, mixing it up on offense, defense, basically shutting down anything that White County threw at them. And once they got them down early in the ball game, it was just tough sledding for the Warriors the rest of the way there. We do have reaction from some of our players and, of course, Chris Parker as well. Josh, if we can, let's go ahead and cue up the Parker interview if we can get it to come through right here. And let's hear from Chris Parker on the Dragons win on Friday night.
Tim Prather, our announcer, talking. You know, 62 years we've been playing football here, and it's the first time we won the playoffs, so it's special. White County was a team we played early in the year, played a close game with them, so you know they're a decent team. And, you know, we just came out, took the game to them, played well on all 3 phases, and, you know, I'm just proud of the boys. I told them all week I'd be more proud of them for winning tonight than any game they played all year. Because, you know, it's 62 years of playing, not winning the playoffs is not by accident. It's hard to win in the state playoffs. It's hard to put yourself in a situation to be in a game you can win, and then it's hard to win because every team's pretty good. And the mountain schools just traditionally haven't done great in the playoffs. So, you know, we knew the first one was going to be tough, and, you know, credit to White County, got a good team. It was just our night. You know, you know, I told those boys I'm very grateful to get to be their coach, and glad they let me be a part of it this year. You know, they've done all the hard work. They worked their butts off.
Coach, this is the first post playoff game win for the Dragons, first one in history. What do you think? What do you think about next week? Troops coming to town. They are 10-1. You just told the team here. I mean, immediately you're gonna start working on that. So, what are you looking at for next week with them coming to your house?
Yeah, they played last night, so we already knew the winner of this game had them. But you know, they're 10-1. We're 11-0. That's 21-1 for you, RJ. If you're counting, that's 2 pretty good football teams. So you get in the second round of playoffs, third round of playoffs. You know, every team's pretty good. So they're going to be really good. They're going to be really, really good. They got several Division I football players. They got guys going to Alabama. They got a lot of people like that. But you know, our boys aren't going to back down from anybody. We're going to play hard. We're going to give our kids a chance. We'll work hard on them. You know, these guys never cease to amaze me. I'll be honest. I kind of really expected it to be a good game tonight, and boys just came out and played their butts off, and you know, made it not much of a game. So I wouldn't count us out against anybody, but we know the Troop's really good.
They're coming here next week. We'll see you next Friday night, Coach. We appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Yeah, Coach Parker, of course, had to throw that little Alabama thing in there. He's an Alabama guy. So Troop County indeed does have some D1 talent, but so do the Dragons. It's going to be a great matchup on Friday night. Luther, I don't know if you've been able to find a whole lot. Obviously, though, Troop County had played the night before, so the Dragons basically knew their opponent, if they were able to win round one, they knew what was going to happen. Troup County 10-1, of course, as Coach said. And these guys have been solid all year long. They've been ranked inside the top 10 most of the season. Certainly not a surprise that they were going to be at this point. The Dragons may very well go in as the underdog in that matchup, even as a number one seed. But that's even more motivation to me for the Dragons to come out and prove that they belong there. It took them 9 weeks, basically, for them to beat Ridgeland before the Dragons at 9-0 finally cracked the top 10. They had 2 and 3 lost teams ahead of them. But once the Dragons, I think, beat Ridgeland, I think that kind of proved to folks around the state that, hey, maybe this team is actually legit. But we knew, being in the local area, how good this Dragon team was. So I don't think it was any surprise for folks around this area to see the Dragons where they're at as well. What can we expect on Friday night?
Well, I'll tell you, we'll touch base real quick on the White County game. Just some quick highlights on some players. C.J. Stryker, 6 for 8 for 158 yards. Rushing the ball, had some, not a bunch of yardage, but I don't have full names, so I apologize for that. But number 5, Moore, 52 yards and a touchdown. We had Whitmore, 4-yard touchdown. Snellgrove put up 28 yards on 3 carries. Stryker, of course, he's the leading rusher on the team.
Yep.
Had 9 carries for 43 yards and a touchdown. Michael Burrow had a touchdown. Hawkins had a touchdown. It was just play. Of course, Zach Goss led in the receiving again, 83 yards. He had 1 catch, according to Max Preps, and that could be wrong. Sometimes the stats don't get completely updated, so if I'm misquoting, I apologize for that.
Yeah, he had a long touchdown the other night. Yeah, I know he had one big long one there for sure.
Yeah, I tell you, it's these guys. They've been able to move the ball all year. Of course, Coach Parker said the other night when we did our Dragon Talk senior show, Coach Parker was talking that BKP said, "Hey, why can't he put up 35 on you?" You know, and the joke was that Parker was going to tell him every day at practice, "Hey, why can't he put up 35 on you?"
Yeah.
Well,
Brian said, BKP said, why can't he put up 35? I think they did use that as some motivation, though.
I believe they did because, you could see it in their eyes, when we did the show when Parker said that BKP said.
Right,
You know, and I believe that did motivate them. When you've got anyone outside, not just BKP, but anyone that is like, I can't think of the word right off the top of my head, but kind of hesitant, coming in. And, BKP said, Coach Parker said, and we've even talked about it, when you play the same team twice in a year, not only do you learn about them, but they learn more about you.
Right.
So coming out of that game 42-0 was, a really big win, but they've been doing that all year.
Yep.
Got some notes there. I don't have them out here with me. You've got them in there. I think they've outscored their opponents like 500 and something to 133 on the season.
Right.
Troup County's a different bear. Troup County's a different bear. As Coach Parker said, they've got some athletes that are moving on to big programs after they graduate. The numbers are almost head to head. They average more yards receiving per game than the Dragons do, but the Dragons have more rushing yards than they do on the per game average.
Right.
So it's going to be really tough. And of course, if we got time for a segment, we'll probably break those down a little bit more. Hope where I can get in there to actually get the details to it. But it's going to be a tough game. It is their toughest opponent, as you said. Looking for 12-0.
Yeah.
Looking for 12-0.
It'd be a lot of fun, no doubt. We're going to break it down here in a few minutes. Luther will be out here with me in segment 4 as we break down the Dragons matchup this Friday, as well as Dawson County is round 2 matchup as well. Before we go to break, though, let's hear the reaction from the players on Friday night. BKP was able to catch up with quarterback C.J. Stryker, Trevon Hawkins, and Zach Goss as well, all who, of course, had big games. It was an overall team win for the Dragons on Friday night. Let's go ahead and play those interviews and get reactions from some of the Dragon players on their first ever playoff victory.
Biggest Dragons quarterback C.J. Stryker. C.J., you guys put 42 on the board tonight against White County. Talk about that offense out there tonight. Cold, a little damp tonight.
You know, everybody all week we've been talking about we having to execute because against White County last time we missed some assignments. You know, I threw some bad passes, we missed some blocks. But tonight the O-line did a great job keeping people off me. The running backs did a great job finding the holes, and the wide receivers did a great job stock blocking and catching passes on the edge. It was overall a good night.
CJ, how about 11-1? Talk about the emotion, how high it is here tonight at the stadium with the Dragons getting their first postseason win in the playoffs in history.
Ever since I was a freshman, we've always been talking about winning in the playoffs, and we knew one day that it was going to come, and to do it at 11-0 and win region and do everything that we've done this year, it's amazing. Great season, what a season.
I know your defense did an outstanding job, but Troup County, you guys knew last night the Troup won, so you knew before you went into this game with this win they would be your opponent. So what are you guys already looking at? They're 10-1, like Coach said. They're coming to your house. What do we got to look forward to next week?
Well, like Trevon said earlier, it's going to be a fight. You know, we'll look more at it on Monday. We're just going to celebrate this win right now and worry about it on Monday. But it's definitely going to be a fight.
CJ, congratulations. Enjoy this one, and we'll see you next Friday night.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm here with Trevon Hawkins and Zach Goss. First of all, guys, talk about this first postseason win in the history of the school. Both of you take that on, man.
It just means a lot for this school and to all of us to be the first ever to just win in the playoffs. It's just an extraordinary feeling that I've never felt before.
It's a great feeling, man. We broke all the records for here personally. It's crazy. It's crazy feeling, man. It's crazy.
All right, talk about this game. Talk about this game out there tonight, some of the things that happened, took place. White County never got on the scoreboard. Talk about this defense tonight.
Our defense, we did the same thing as we did the first time we played them, but we had people hurt. And today we had everybody here, so they was able to see what we were fully capable of.
Guys, having a good time. You got Troup coming. I know everybody's having a good time celebrating tonight. But talk about Troup coming next week. They're 10-1. Serious game here in your house. What do you think we're looking at next week?
We're looking at a dog fight. They came here to play. We're going to show them we ready to play. I just know we some dogs, some Dub City. That's how I know we some dogs, baby.
Congratulations, guys. Enjoy the
All right, obviously fired up on Friday night. Trevon Hawkins and Zach Goss, two guys that'll probably be playing on Saturdays next year, no doubt. So the Dragons do have some firepower of their own, and definitely some guys that are college bound. And of course, they'll take on Troup on Friday night. When we return, we're going to mix things up a little bit, talk about some other things going on throughout our local area, and then we'll come back for our fourth quarter segment. And Luther and I will break down the matchup with the Dragons and Troup County, and also the Dawson County Tigers taking on Monroe area in round 2 as well. All that much more still ahead on this week's edition of the Instant Replay. We'll be back.
The leaves aren't the only thing falling in Jasper. The prices are falling too at Days Chevrolet. Now during the model year end clearance, get huge savings up to $14,000 off Chevy Silverado Crew Cab and save up to $7,000 off new Chevy Cruze. The prices are falling on every 2018 Chevy in stock during the model year end clearance. Going on now at Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where new Chevys always cost less.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
At Ingalls, we have a very special family. A family of farmers, ranchers, and dairymen. Clerks, butchers, and bakers. Deli workers, pharmacists, and florists. We work hard every day to bring you the very best. And we'll continue to wake up every morning and work as hard as you do. This is our town, and we built this community together. Ingalls, your neighbor for over 50 years.
Back here with more of the Instant Replay. Dave Garner with you. Luther Kinsey behind the glass. Josh as well on the controls. We've got our gang with us, and we're glad you joined us on this rainy Monday, November the 12th, Veterans Day, as we continue to salute our heroes. And again, we appreciate everyone being in with us. Of course, we have Rick in with us this morning, doing the Good Morning from the Office show with BKP out. We've got we left the flags in here though. We wanted to continue to represent as we continue to salute our veterans today. And looks like the rain's going to be a common theme over the next few days right here in our local area. But hopefully, it will not affect Friday Night Football, which we're going to be talking about in our fourth segment. Before we get there, though, let's talk about some other things that are going on. Just a reminder, high school basketball cranking up this week for most of our local area programs. Matter of fact, along our Highway 515 area on Saturday, the ETC Piedmont Mountainside Tip-Off Tourney will signify kind of the official opening of the rival games, as, of course, you have Fannin, Gilmer, and Pickens playing in that tournament, along with Hiwassee Dam. It's going to be a great tournament that starts on Saturday, the 17th, and will go into Monday and Tuesday, the 19th and 20th, respectively. But some other games being played before then this week, so all we have to say about that is keep it right here, because starting next week we will be highlighting scores and more from the high school basketball court. High school wrestling also not far behind as we jump right into the winter season. We still have, of course, some football to talk about. We'll be doing that, but we're going to be mixing in some basketball coverage as well. Do want to mention last week, again, high school cross country. A lot of things, of course, going on. The 2A girls, Union County took the title with Zoe Sanchez earning an individual time of 20.445. Luke Gambrill placed fourth on the boys' side with a time of 17:56.92. Congratulations, though, to Zoe Sanchez, the winner on the girls' side. In 2A, AAA, Frankie Muldoon from the Dawson County girls finished third overall at 22.98. And Carlos Cruz of Gilmer County, the top placer in 4A from our local area. Of course, all the state cross-country meets happening last Saturday, not this past Saturday, but previous Saturday in Carrollton. Carrollton has hosted the state GHSA cross-country meet for a long time now, for many years. And again, some great local efforts. But congratulations, though, to Zoe. What an effort by her. And, of course, Frankie on the girls' side. And then on the boys' side, Carlos. And, of course, Luke from Union County, as we talked about. Just an awesome effort there. And we'll get some comments from Luther, too, in our fourth segment. We bring him out. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. College football from over the weekend. Reinhardt over Union College in Kentucky, 62-0 as the Eagles continue to fly. They're ranked inside the top 5 of NAIA right now. Trinity over Berry. The Vikings falling for the first time this year. They were 9-0 and ranked 9th going into that game, but they do fall. However, the loss does not hurt them, as they will still host a first-round playoff matchup in D3 this Saturday over in Rome, and Mount Berry against the Maryville Scots, a team that they opened the season with for the last 6 years since the program started. They've basically opened with Maryville, so a very familiar opponent for Berry as they open the D3 playoffs this weekend. Kennesaw State with a big win over Monmouth over the weekend, 51-14, as KSU remains tucked inside the top 2, basically. I think they're second in FCS right now in Division 1. Troy over Georgia Southern. Troy's been a very good football team this year. The Eagles also with a great season, but they fell short over the weekend against Troy, 35-21. Louisiana all over Georgia State, 36-22. That's Louisiana Lafayette, of course, University of Louisiana, 36-22 over State. Georgia Tech, though, with a big win over Miami, 27-21. The Yellow Jackets now bowl eligible as they defeat Miami, who drops to 5-5, and they're just about ready to run Mark Richt out of town down there in Miami. And Georgia winner over Auburn on Saturday, 27-10, as the Dogs continue their ways in the SEC. Of course, getting the big win against Florida and now Auburn, and now they'll go non-conference for a couple games with Tech in there before getting ready to face Alabama. So it should be fun. Again, the Bulldogs continue to roll there, and Auburn falling, a team that had a lot of promise earlier in the season, but now they're starting to fall off here, especially late in the year. And Gus Malzahn, who knows, his job may be up for grabs at the end of this year with the season they've had. And that's a look at our college football. A lot of things going on locally around our area. We talked about the Atlanta United, the Atlanta Hawks. Again, slow start. Everyone knew that was going to happen. I kind of hope they tank so that they can get a good player next year. Maybe Zion Williamson or one of those guys from Duke, that have been impressive. But we'll see how it it goes. And of course, the Atlanta Falcons, it goes without saying, yesterday was an absolute disaster as they fell to the Cleveland Browns, and it wasn't even as close as the score indicated. Not sure if they overlooked the guys or what, but again, when you're 4-4, you can't afford to overlook anyone, and the Falcons fall to 4-5 with that loss yesterday to the Cleveland Browns, who have won their third game in the season. They've played some good football this year, but still, that one certainly stings if you're a Falcon fan. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a time out to make sure that we've got plenty of time to break down this week's high school football matchups and more. Luther Kinsey from behind the glass will be in front of the glass when we return after a short break. Stay with us. This week's edition of the Instant Replay rolls on right here on FYNTV.com.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and LJ, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN10 for your special deal today at Circuit World.
The leaves aren't the only thing falling in Jasper. The prices are falling too at Days Chevrolet. Now during the model year end clearance, get huge savings up to $14,000 off Chevy Silverado Crew Cab and save up to $7,000 off new Chevy Cruze. The prices are falling on every 2018 Chevy in stock during the model year end clearance. Going on now at Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where new Chevys always cost less.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
At Ingalls, we have a very special family. A family of farmers, ranchers, and dairymen. Clerks, butchers, and bakers. Deli workers, pharmacists, and florists. We work hard every day to bring you the very best. And we'll continue to wake up every morning and work as hard as you do. This is our town, and we built this community together. Ingalls, your neighbor for over 50 years.
Back here now in studio with Luther Kinsey as we break down this week's high school football matchups. Again, we appreciate you guys tuning in. This is the Instant Replay, always highlighting and promoting student athletes in a positive way. That is Team FYN Sports, and of course we're on FYNTV.com. And Luther, before we jump into high school football, we've got a little bit of time here in our fourth quarter segment of the program. We talk about, state championships and how hard they are. We talked about, of course, Zoe Sanchez winning the AA for Union County. Right. The Union County boys winning the state cross-country title as a team. Yeah. So I tell you what, I know Union County football fell on Friday night. Their season ended a little bit more, abruptly than they wanted to. Right. But how about the cross-country program, not to be overlooked here in the fall season?
Yeah, and I believe that I had in my notes the girls had won the state. So, I want to get that corrected. But great job by the ladies up there as well, Lady Panthers runners, and congratulations to the guys. Yeah. To me, the mountain counties, honestly, in my opinion, would have a better chance because cross country is not your get on your level track and run. It's running through woods. It's running through trails.
Especially at Carrollton, there's a little bit of elevation to it.
So, so it doesn't surprise me that those boys really stepped up and did well there.
Right.
Just the conditioning they do in the mountains is going to be a lot different than, the guys down in the city. But congratulations to them, and I believe it's their first time in history.
Yeah, I think it is.
First time in school history that they've done that.
And in a sport where typically the private schools dominate, because I was in Carrollton, and I was there, and I saw, you see the Marists, and you see the Blessed Trinities, and you see the Westminsters and the Lovetts and all the Pace Academy and all those private schools that tend to dominate what we call, no disrespect, but the secondary sports, such as your golfs and your tennis and your cross countries and those sorts of sports. Right. And even wrestling is not really it's obviously here in our area it's a primary sport, not a secondary sport. But when we talk about anything outside of football, basketball, and maybe baseball, we kind of consider as the secondary sports when we say that. So it doesn't, not disrespecting, but it's typically a private school thing. They dominate those sports in addition to some of the other bigger sports. So to see one of our, rural area teams, like a Union County, to be able to take some hardware away in 2A, man, I think that's awesome.
It is. And I want to, you mentioned there as far as a primary sport up here in our area is wrestling. Did not put it in the notes today, but I do want to bring it up. Wrestling season has officially started.
Yep.
Gilmer fielded 2 varsity teams this weekend at 2 locations. Did very well. Schedules are out. I'll have those up hopefully this afternoon for not only that for basketball as well as the ones that I have. But they have a Gilmer wrestling program.
How about that?
Going after state title number 18.
Yeah, and to be that deep, you can split 2 teams up and to be able to compete in 2 places at once. That's like the Harlem Globetrotters. They always had 2 travel teams so that they could, rotate cities and stuff.
It is, and I'll tell you, and that's a. I know you didn't mean the comparison the way it sounded, the way I'm taking it right now, just to, kind of bring a little light to it. There's no tricks in Gilmer wrestling.
Right, well, there you go. See, they played right in. I tossed you softball and you knocked it out of the park.
Well, I may have bounced it off the fence. I haven't hit a home run in a long time. But, but they have started up. Lumpkin County's going, Fannin County, all our local coverage areas, wrestling is starting up.
Right.
I'm going to have some kind of inaugural tournaments.
Sure.
To start the season like we do in basketball starting up here pretty soon. I'm going to be highlighting a lot of that. Also, I'm a little behind on my story, but Will Gudger Memorial Locker Room was dedicated last week.
Okay.
I've got pictures up on our Team FYN Sports Facebook page. The article's not up yet, but I will be bringing that.
Sounds great.
That out. And hopefully next week as we, not going to say back away from football, but as our football season slows down with less teams, I'm going to try to start bringing some more wrestling in. So I'm going to hopefully have some pictures and talk about the locker room next week.
That'll work. As we say, we're going to be mixing in some coverage starting next week. So stay with us right here on the program. And also, this is not just all we do. Obviously, we have Team FYN Sports. It's all week long. So check us out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those things. You can catch Luther and all the gang doing their thing. This is just one part. of what we're doing right here. So let's talk high school football, and we've got a little less than maybe 15 minutes left here. Let's start with the AAA matchup in our local area. Dawson County on the road at Monroe area. The Canes, the number 1 seed out of their region. Dawson County Tigers, of course, going on the road. And, when you look at this matchup, statistically, they're pretty even. Monroe's put a few more points on the board. Dawson County, again, does a lot of their damage on the ground. Obviously, they're a lot like Pickens and what we talk about there with the rushing attack, averaging a little over 300 yards on the ground a ball game. Now, they're under 100 yards throwing the football, but when they do throw the football, they've been effective because the running game opens up so much. Monroe, basically the same boat. They're averaging almost 360 rushing a ball game and a little over 100 passing. So from an explosive standpoint, both these teams have had a lot of explosive plays, although Dawson County is more of a ball control kind of offense. I think their best defense on Friday night might be their offense. Hold on to the football.
Right. And, I agree too. Clark, number 3, their senior quarterback, big, loves to run, loves to throw. They've got a sophomore. Number 6. I'm going to butcher his last name, but I believe it's like Henishin or something. I'm not sure. In last Friday night's game, that young man has the moves, the cuts. I mean, he's small.
Right.
He is a small, but young man, but he can absolutely carry the football.
Right.
He broke several down the sidelines, couple of callbacks by some penalties, but he is the future of Dawson, and they're not going to fall off in these next few years as they move forward. Speaking of defense, I believe the Dawson County defense has the advantage. Yes, they're seeing, as we talked about their toughest challenge of the year, I believe. I believe Monroe area is going to be a bigger challenge than GHC was.
Right.
GHC is big and fast. Monroe area is fast. They are super fast when they get in open field. But defensively, Monroe area has only sacked the quarterback 8 times. Dawson has 27 sacks on the season. I was going to
say, yeah.
And, that shows, that defensive front, those linebackers, they're putting the pressure in. They're beating those offensive linemen to get to that quarterback. And that to me, is going to be the game breaker this week. Can they get to that quarterback?
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be, when you look at the sack totals there and you see what the Tigers have done defensively, putting pressure on other teams' quarterbacks. Monroe area has a senior quarterback in Chandler Byron, who's 46 of 73 for a little over 1,000 yards on the year, 14 touchdowns against just 3 interceptions. They've been effective when they've thrown the football. The main thing, obviously, is going to be the rush game and whether or not they can slow Monroe area down on the ground. But with the surge that those guys get up front, though, the Tigers, where they've been playing defense this year, I wouldn't be surprised if they did put the clamps on them.
Well, they're going to need to, because not only is Chandler Byron a great quarterback through the air, in last week's game against Pace Academy, which they won 38-21, I believe, 38-22, he had 27 carries for 238 yards as a quarterback.
Right.
Those are great numbers. Clark is, a great runner as well. Savon Clark, great ball carrier. But you're going to have to contain that pressure. You've got to get to him and keep him, from getting outside. Because again, like I said, they're super fast, and Byron's another one that can beat you on the field. So it's going to be a tough ball game for Coach Maxwell's Tigers, and look forward to it. Hopefully, hopefully we'll be able to get some coverage over there. It's a 2.5 hours.
I was going to say, it's a little bit of a hike for the Tigers on Friday night. If Coach Maxwell's teams traditionally over the years, his philosophy has always been, look, it's a tractor pull, not a track meet. We want to turn this thing into a tractor pull. We want to slow the pace, 3 yards, cloud of dust, ball control. As he's gotten a little bit older, and I can say that because he's one of my high school coaches, I can get away with that. He's loosened up a little bit. They tend to do things a little differently now. They might throw in a fake or two or something, and try to catch you off guard. So he's let the boys have fun at this point in his life. I think he's like, hey, I'm ready for these kids to have a good time. He's been able to be one of those coaches that in a lot of ways is still very old school, but he also understands how the game and the athletes that play it have changed over the decades, because guys are a lot different now. These kids are a lot different in the way that they approach things sometimes, and so he's rolled with that. These guys are having fun, and the Tigers again rolling into round 2 on Friday night on the road as they travel to Monroe area. All right, let's talk about our 4A matchup, the Dragons and the Troup County Tigers. And Pickens, again, coming into this game, when you look at statistics, we were just talking about Dawson, how, somewhat even Monroe area, maybe a tad higher yardage-wise. But this game right here, this Dragon Troop County game, I mean, you look at the total yards in this one, these guys are within 100 yards of each other. And a lot of what they do, the Dragons have outscored opponents, as you said earlier, 506 to 133. Troop has outscored opponents 449 to 177. So the Dragons have actually put up a few more points. Troop County's actually allowed a few more points. I know, like I said, that Troop's probably going to be favored in this ball game because of who they've played and the fact that they've been up there all year long. But I tell you what, the Dragons, man, I like the way Pickens is playing. I think on Friday night they sent a message with that 42-0 shutout over White County. I think it's going to be a great matchup between two very good teams.
Right. Well, and as you said earlier, Pickens has started out strong. Beating Ridgeland was the breaking point as far as Georgia high school, the media, and others saying, whoa, these guys are real.
Right. And Ridgeland won, I think, too, by the way, Friday night, I think, right? I'm pretty sure they won.
I believe Ridgeland beat Flowery Branch. I can pull up my phone.
That's fine. But I mean, so that shows that Ridgeland's not terrible. Well, they're just a bad Ridgeland team. Well, no.
Ridgeland is a powerhouse in 4A. Over here. They've dominated over the years. They've shown they're a quality football team. This year, and of course Pickens is a quality football team too as well. Made it to playoffs last year, had a great season. Fortunately didn't get that first round victory. This year, 11-0. They've set scoring records, all kinds of school records in history. First time undefeated, first time winning a playoff game. On paper, this game shows to be pretty much dead even. But I believe you're right. They will come in as an underdog. There was a lot of upsets last weekend. I hope we don't see one this weekend. You got Pickens had 72 total touchdowns on the season, and I believe Troop had 59. So, that's going to kind of cover the extra yardage on the season as well.
Right.
258.3 yards receiving is the average for Troop County. That tells me that the defensive backs, the corners, the safeties, the linebackers for underneath routes and all that's really going to be tested.
Right.
And I believe they're up for the challenge.
Yeah.
I believe they're up for the challenge. The emotion, the heart, the knowledge that Coach Parker's put in and his staff has put into these guys, I believe they're ready for this challenge.
Sure.
It's going to be a tough ball game for them. I'd love to see them go to round 3. As you move deeper, it gets tougher.
Right, yeah. And you're staring at a very good, well, even in round 2, you got good teams, but you're staring at a very good opponent in the quarterfinals, probably Lee County if you make it to the quarterfinals.
And that could put Pickens on the road.
Right.
When you have a number one playing a number one, I'm not 100% familiar with the format they use to determine the home team there.
Right, yeah. But sometimes it's a coin flip or what have you.
And that could put them on the road, and, Pickens has dominated on the road and at home. But, playing the teams in the playoffs in their house brings a different level to that team's ability.
Right,
as Pickens knows. You
play
at home and, you're...
It increases your chances, I think. There's no doubt. Even statistically, it does. And I misspoke. Lee County is actually in 5A. I was thinking Creekview, too, because I do some stuff in Cherokee County. Right. But there's some different opponents there. When you look at the bracket, though, I think if the Dragons are able to get past this hurdle, then they've got the opportunity to go a good bit further because the quarterfinals and semifinals, because of the way things are looking, actually set up pretty well for them if they can beat Troop County. I think the winner of this game has a chance to go to the semifinals. I mean, I really do. But that's neither here nor there. We'll talk about that next week if that happens for the Dragons. So.
Quick note, another talking about the Troop County offense. Of course, the numbers we've said, they're a legit team, they're a legit offense. Hudson, their quarterback, in last week's game was 10 for 18 for 225 yards.
Right.
There again, it's going to test those defensive backs on the passing routes. Had 3 guys with over 100 yards carrying the ball. Hudson being one, had 19 carries for 108 yards. Williams, running back, was 23 for 100 yards and a touchdown. And Carlisle, 20 carries for 133 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Right.
So that seems to be, from my research, that's the guys you have to watch out. Of course, they've got several others that touch the ball. But that's the 3 guys that, if I'm coaching, I got to spy.
Right,
I'm spying those 3 guys. It seems like You know, and of course, troops will have to do the same thing for Pickens as well. They don't have, you've got Stryker, you've got Davis, you know, you've got Zach Goss receiving, and then and Snellgrove, and the numbers. I mean, the names
Burl, and I mean, you can just keep rattling them off. Yeah, exactly.
You know, and so that game is the game to watch in Georgia high school playoffs of all regions, all levels, all classes. I believe this is the game to watch.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of eyes on it. I think, Troops very fast. As Coach said earlier, Coach Parker in the post-game interview Friday night, they have a lot of D1 guys. They got guys that are going to some big colleges. Right. They like to spread you out. They throw it around a lot. I think the game is going to be reminiscent of years ago when Shannon Brooks was at Pickens and Nick Chubb was at Cedartown. And Cedartown came over, and they were ranked, I believe, in the top 10 at that time. Right. But Pickens played them to a touchdown ball game, and Pickens had a good team that year. And that was the game, to me, that got Shannon Brooks really on the map because he was a year younger. Than, Chubb was getting all the attention. Everyone knew he was probably going to Georgia, but who's this Shannon Brooks kid? And he ends up getting a lot of, because those guys were just dueling back and forth. And Shannon Brooks, I think, might have even outgained Chubb that night. They had too much offense, but they did it on the ground. Whereas Troop, I think it's going to be a similar type matchup, although I think they're going to get there a different way. I think Troop, they really rely on their speed. They like to throw the football. I mean, they put more in the air than they do on the ground statistically. So you're right. I mean, the secondary is going to be tested, but your secondary is really only as good as your guys up front. So I think you're going to have Makem and all those pass rusher types are going to have to get that rush, but contain Hudson a little bit. Keep him from getting outside and having a lot of options, to be able to throw, run, whatever. So you're looking at a lot of athletes that defense is going to have to play their best game of the year. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. Right. So, should be a lot of fun. We're about out of time on this week's show, but where are you gonna be?
I don't know yet. I was talking with BKP.
Yeah. Where's Brian? Brian going to go to Pickens, I guess?
I'm not sure. He's.
I mean, I know we got RJ down there. RJ, my co-host on the Dragon Talk. Yeah. I know he'll be there. Probably going to be too cold for him to go shirtless with a painted chest. So we won't expect that from RJ this week. We've given him a hard time all year long.
Well, I will say, if RJ Casey, Team FYN sports reporter for Pickens High School, shows up shirtless and painted green, and BKP goes to that game, we need that in the sounds of the game.
Definitely. We need to mic him up somehow. I mean, we need to have a mic following RJ around if that's the case.
Yes, most definitely. But he's holding on his toes. BKP's holding that under his hat. I'm assuming he probably will. It is our only local game. He asked me about Dawson and Monroe area, and when I told him it was 2.5 hours away, all he said was, "That's a trek."
Right.
That's a trek.
That's not a yes or a no, but. Well, we do know one thing, though. We will have some highlights of some sort and some reaction of some sort on Monday's next week's show right here on the Instant Replay. So stay with us. It's been an awesome show. We've had a lot to talk about. This is the time of year that we like to talk about, especially if you're a fan of high school football in the state of Georgia. Very fun time of year. Playoffs round 2 this week. Hopefully, we will be talking about a couple of teams going to the quarterfinals next week, and the Tigers of Dawson County and the Dragons of Pickens. But we'll have to wait and see how things play out, and of course basketball and other stuff going on next week. Keep it right here. We've enjoyed our time. Remember, we're always highlighting and promoting student athletes in a positive way, and if you have any information you'd like to share with us, please feel free to do that. teamfynsports@fetchernews.com is our email. Get it to us so we can get it on the show right here. I want to thank Josh behind the glass here today, and my co-host as always and producer Luther. See, there you go. That's all in one word. Producer Luther Kinsey. Appreciate you guys being with us. Because if it happens in North Georgia, we're all over it. We'll see you next week.